the Milwaukee Bucks have made it official. Parting ways, firing Coach Bud. Mike Budenholzer can fire.
Fired was the word that was used too. Fired was the word that was used. This wasn't like mutually agreeing to part ways. It's like Bucks fired Coach Bud.
Why? Because they'd be like, hey, Coach, what do you think about coming back here next year? He'd be like, I'd love to. And they're like, well, see ya. You're fired.
Well, then you and I are on two different wavelengths. Yeah. We will see you later.
It's like the Ari Gold line from Entourage. And in case your ears are reffed, you're fired.
Wow, that's not even crazy, but you just go like, wow. Or like, oh, okay. Like that's, and at the same time, you're just like, well, yeah. Like you could make a pretty good argument that that's the worst loss any team's ever had in the first round. Like there's like a pretty good argument for that, given how each team played in the regular season and that Giannis only missed like, 2 games? He missed game 2 and game 3 and then came back and they lost 4 and lost 5. It's also, like in the NBA especially, there's just a ticking clock for anyone who's not like Greg Popovich on coaching an NBA team. And this happened with Brad Stevens and the Celtics too, who had like a ton of success. And when he moved into his front office role, all the stories were just like, look, like the guys just started tuning him out. They were just like, I'm good on the messages here. I'm good on the advice. I'm good on the strategy. Like it just a new voice was required. And what that speaks to is like for all NBA coaches, that's kind of the case. Like the shelf life is pretty short. And then players just kind of start tuning you out and there just starts to be friction. And kind of like some people we had on the show, I think about when Matt Moore would come on a lot of the time, he would say, like there's just some stuff going on behind the scenes here with everybody where there's just he used the term end of an era. And I don't know if that's what this is going to be, but like this is an easy move to make based on what happens where it's like, at a certain point, like he won a title. He was the coach for what, like 6 years, basically, something like that. I'm guessing off the top of my head. That kind of sounds right. Won coach of the year before. They won an NBA title, like I mentioned. At some point, players just kind of stop listening. That's like what we hear all the time about NBA players. So even a team that wins a lot, it's like, oh, why wouldn't they just run it back again? Yeah, they lost in the first round and it was embarrassing. Also, even before they did that, maybe some signs that maybe at some point everybody just kind of stops paying attention, stops listening. I'm sure there was some of that here also.
If Jimmy Butler plays in the game and the point spread stays at 3, even if it goes down to 3, but let's say it stays at 3.5, I'm betting the Knicks.
If he plays, it's not going down. Yeah,
totally. I'm just to illustrate the point that I'm making here is that if the point spread is 3 or greater, I'm betting the Knicks, and I'm feeling really good about it. I kind of think Miami should be favored in the game, maybe 2. So you're going to give me more than a possession with the Knicks here? Like watching these two teams play games in the regular season this year, like Miami can win the game. It just ain't going to be by 4 or more points, I don't think. And I agree. We are in lockstep here on how we see the series playing out. Now, I'm not going to bet Miami, and I know we did this with the Giants and the Eagles, and I wanted to bet the Eagles, and I didn't because I'm a Giants fan. And then the Eagles won by $1 million, and I really regretted it. And I was like, you know what? I will bet against my team if the situation arises moving forward. I'm officially walking that back and taking it back. I am not betting against the Knicks here. I really want the Knicks to win the series. So if my betting analysis is, I do think Miami will win the series. Like to save my life or the lives of people I care about, I would take the Heat to win the series against the Knicks, but I will not bet against the Knicks because I want them to win. In game number 3, Knicks or nothing, and I actually think, Ken, it is a really easy decision. If this is going to be the point spread, this or more, easy to bet the Knicks. Like win or lose, and I feel good making the bet. Let's talk some exotics here. Exacta, Trifecta, Super, whatever you've got for us and our listeners and viewers. We have the pens out. We have the notebooks ready, Mike.
All right, well, we're going to have to go back to the Super just because of the success we had a couple years ago with that. I'm always looking for value in this race, specifically with the horse on top. I really like a couple horses underneath, so this plays out pretty well for me. I'm going to put the 8-horse Mage on top of the Super. We're going to put him alone in that first spot. And then in the second spot, we're going to look at 3 different horses. Angel of Empire, the 14, ran really well in the Arkansas Derby. The horse is on the upswing. Flavian Pratt picks up the mount, a horse that I was actually going to pick to win the Derby last week. But the biggest issue here is, again, where he'll be. If he sits back in that 13th, 14th spot, it's going to be very hard for him to win the race. But I think he's got a really good shot at hitting the board. So we're going to use the 14 Angel of Empire. We're going to use the 15 Forte. And then we're going to use the 17, Derma Sotagake, who is going to be your Japanese horse here. And Japan horses have fared very, very well all over the place, except yet to succeed here in the U.S. in the Kentucky Derby. However, Mandarin Hero was running at the B tracks over in Japan and just ran second in the Santa Anita Derby. Dermis Otagate was running in the A tracks over in Japan. I think he also gets a very good trip. Went gate to wire in the UAE Derby, but he's a horse that wants to sit just off the pace. Should be able to do that from the 17 post, which is now going to be the 15 post. Both those defections help him out. So I like Dermis Otagate as well. Going to look for a little more value underneath in the next spot. We're going to add the 6 Kings Barns. So we're going to go 6, 14, 15, 17 in that third spot. And then in the fourth spot, we're going to add the 3-horse 2 Phils, who actually won at Turfway Park last time over a synthetic course. Ironically, the race which Rich Strike came out of, who's 12-1 in that 3-hole. So the ticket's going to be 8 over 14, 15, 17 over 6, 14, 15, 17 over 3, 6, 14, 15, 17.
Addison's stepping right into the Adam Thielen role, right? And I think that's gonna matter a lot. I think he's going to get some work this year for the Minnesota Vikings. Should be able to catch some passes, but KJ Osborne's really good. Justin Jefferson, they're never going to sacrifice Justin Jefferson's targets like for Jordan Addison or anyone. Insert name of warm, living, breathing body. Justin Jefferson's going to get all those targets. So I think at best, Addison's probably like 4th on the chain here in this Minnesota Vikings offense. Just worth noting also, this doesn't matter for like this conversation, but I don't think Dalvin Cook's going to be on the Vikings week 1 roster. Huge salary cap number. I think we talked about this a couple months ago. Huge cap number. Like, he's still on the team right now. Maybe they restructure his deal. He could get traded. He could get cut. Alexander Mattison might be the team starting running back this year, which is neither here nor there for this conversation, but we're talking Vikings. So just wanted to get that out there. So I think that because Addison kind of steps in as the de facto like number 2 receiver for the Vikings, I think that he's appropriately priced. I don't like him as much as Zay Flowers. We'll talk about that when we get to Zay. I just think he's a little mispriced here at 10-1. He would be my bet of the 4 first-round receivers would be Flowers, especially price included at 10-1. So I think something that people have to get used to at this point in the offseason, if you have thought this like prior to right now, and Lamar Jackson had his reintroductory press conference after signing his extension. By the way, he was wearing a great like green knit like crochet polo shirt. I loved that shirt. I kind of want that shirt that Lamar Jackson was wearing. So Lamar said, like, I feel like I could throw for 6,000 yards this year with these receivers. Now, like, that's not going to happen because it's an insane number. The point, though, is that I think Baltimore's offense is evolving into the 21st century with the hiring of Todd, who most recently was the play caller for the 2-time national champion Georgia Bulldogs. Like, was offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Jameis was the quarterback. Tons of production in the passing game. And I think we might see the Ravens run like a version of the air raid. Now, like, they will still run the ball with Dobbins, and Lamar will still get his carries. Obviously, he's an awesome athlete. But this is not going to be the Ravens offense that it's been the last couple of years. And I think it's pretty clear that Lamar wanted the pass catchers to be better, and he referenced it at his press conference today. Enter Odell Beckham Jr. Rashad Bateman will be back from injury, and enter now Zay Flowers with the first-round draft capital.